Did you know that poorly written dialogue can cause 60% of readers to stop reading a book? That's a staggering number. Great dialogue is the heartbeat of any story. It brings characters to life and keeps readers hooked. Yet, many writers struggle with it. Imagine this. You're watching a thrilling movie, but the characters speak like robots. You'd probably change the channel, right? The same goes for books. Dialogue that's too perfect, too info-heavy, or too flat can break your story. In this video, we'll dive into the 9 biggest dialogue mistakes writers make. You'll learn how to make your characters sound real, keep conversations engaging, and avoid info dumps. We'll also explore how to add depth with subtext and make each character's voice unique. Get ready to transform your storytelling skills. We'll share expert tips and tricks, backed by data and quotes from famous authors. By the end, you'll know exactly how to fix these common mistakes and make your dialogue shine. Stay tuned for the first chapter on how to avoid overly perfect speech. Chapter 1. Overly perfect speech making characters sound unrealistic. Overly perfect speech can make characters sound like robots. In real life, people use fillers, pauses, and even make mistakes. Take George Orwell's advice. Good writing is like a window pane. It's clear and real, not perfect. To fix this, add imperfections to your dialogue. People don't speak in complete sentences. They use contractions, slang, and sometimes even start sentences with and, or, but. According to linguist Deborah Tannen, conversation is a ritual, full of these quirks. Let's look at a quick example. Instead of a character saying, "I do not think that is a good idea," try, "I don't think that's a good idea." It feels more natural. Another tip is to let your characters interrupt each other. It happens all the time in real conversations. It shows urgency or excitement. This technique is called overlapping dialogue, and it can bring your scenes to life. Remember, dialogue is about how people speak, not just what they say. Watch movies or listen to real conversations. Notice how people talk. They don't always finish their thoughts, and that's okay. Chapter 2. Info dumping through dialogue, the art of subtlety. Info dumping is when characters spill too much information at once. It can feel like reading a manual. Your goal is to be subtle, like hiding veggies in a smoothie. Instead of having a character say, "As you know, my father, who is a lawyer, is coming to town," try weaving this information into the story. Maybe another character could see a photo and ask about it, leading to a natural revelation. Show, don't tell. This classic advice is crucial. Instead of saying, "He was nervous," show his hands shaking or his voice cracking. It's more engaging. Use action to reveal information. If a character is a skilled thief, don't have them say it. Show them picking a lock effortlessly. According to the book, Story, by Robert McKee, true character is revealed in the choices a human being makes under pressure. Chapter 3. Monotonous tone bringing varied emotions to life. A monotonous tone can make your dialogue dull. People express a range of emotions in conversations. Vary the tone to keep it interesting. Use exclamations and questions to break up the monotony. For example, "What are you doing?" has more energy than "I wonder what you were doing." Vary sentence length. Short sentences can convey urgency. Longer ones can reflect a character's thought process. Mixing these keeps the dialogue dynamic. Think about how people actually talk. They change their tone based on emotions. If someone is excited, their words might come out in a rush. If they're sad, they might speak slowly. Use pauses for effect. A well-placed pause can add tension or give a character time to think. It's like music. The rests are as important as the notes. Chapter 4. Stilted dialogue making conversations flow naturally. Stilted dialogue can make your characters sound like they're reading from a script. To make conversations flow naturally, imagine how real people talk. They don't use perfect grammar or complete sentences. One strategy is to use contractions. Instead of "I am going to the store," try "I'm going to the store." It's more natural and less formal. Another tip is to use sentence fragments. People often speak in incomplete thoughts. For example, "Going to the store. Need anything?" feels more real than "I am going to the store. Do you need anything?" Listen to real conversations. Notice how people interrupt each other, trail off, and change topics abruptly. These quirks make dialogue feel authentic. Pacing is key. Dialogue should move at the speed of real speech. Avoid long, uninterrupted monologues. Instead, break them up with actions, thoughts, or reactions from other characters. Author Elmore Leonard said, "If it sounds like writing, I rewrite it." This is great advice. If your dialogue feels stiff, try rewriting it to sound more conversational. Chapter 5: Excessive small talk, balancing realism and relevance. Excessive small talk can bog down your story. While small talk is realistic, too much can be boring. Balance realism and relevance by keeping small talk short and purposeful. Start conversations with action. Instead of, "Hi, how are you?" begin with something interesting. For example, "You won't believe what happened at work today." This grabs attention and moves the story forward. Use small talk to reveal character or advance the plot. A brief exchange about the weather can show tension or set the scene. For example, "It's going to rain," can hint at impending trouble. Cut unnecessary dialogue. If it doesn't reveal character or move the plot, it's probably not needed. Keep the focus on what's important. Dialogue should reflect character relationships. Friends might use more casual small talk, while strangers might be more formal. This adds depth to your characters. Remember, less is often more. A few well-placed lines of small talk can add realism without slowing the story. Chapter 6: Unclear character voices, distinguishing each speaker. Unclear character voices can confuse readers. Each character should have a distinct way of speaking. This makes it easier to follow conversations and understand who's talking. Give characters unique speech patterns. Maybe one uses short, clipped sentences, while another is more verbose. This helps readers identify them quickly. Use vocabulary to differentiate characters. An educated character might use complex words, while a child might use simpler language. This reflects their background and personality. Think about accents and dialects. These can add flavor to your dialogue. Just be careful not to overdo it or rely on stereotypes. A few key phrases can go a long way. Consider each character's background. Their speech should reflect their experiences. A soldier might use military jargon, while a tech-savvy character might use tech terms. Use dialogue tags sparingly. If your characters have distinct voices, you won't need to constantly remind readers who's speaking. For example, in The Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger gives Holden Caulfield a unique voice that's instantly recognizable. Read your dialogue out loud. This can help you catch voices that sound too similar. It's a simple way to ensure each character's voice is unique. Chapter 7: Ignoring subtext, adding depth to dialogue. Ignoring subtext can make dialogue flat and uninteresting. Subtext is the underlying meaning beneath the words. It's what characters mean, but don't say directly. One strategy to add subtext is through body language. For example, a character might say, "I'm fine," but their clenched fists tell a different story. This adds depth and tension. In To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee uses subtext masterfully. When Atticus Finch says, "Scout," simply by the nature of the work, every lawyer gets at least one case in his lifetime that affects him personally. "This one's mine, I guess." He's revealing his deep commitment to justice, beyond just words. Use contrasting dialogue. Characters might say one thing but mean another. For example, "I love your dress" could be sincere or sarcastic, depending on the context and delivery. This keeps readers engaged, trying to read between the lines. Think about what your characters want to hide. People often mask the true feelings. This hidden layer of dialogue adds complexity. For example, a character might talk about the weather to avoid discussing a recent argument. Chapter 8: Unnecessary exposition. Show, don't tell. Unnecessary exposition can slow down your story. Show, don't tell, is a golden rule in writing. It means revealing information through actions and dialogue, not just direct statements. Instead of saying, "She was nervous," show her tapping her foot or biting her nails. These actions convey her feelings without spelling them out. Use dialogue to reveal character traits. Instead of saying, "He was a kind man," show him helping a stranger or comforting a friend. Actions speak louder than words. Avoid, "as you know," dialogue. This is when characters tell each other things they already know, just to inform the audience. It's clunky and unnatural. Find creative ways to introduce background information. Break up exposition with action. If you need to include some background info, weave it into a scene where something is happening. This keeps the pace up and the reader engaged. Ernest Hemingway's iceberg theory suggests that the deeper meaning of a story should not be evident on the surface but should shine through implicitly. This means leaving a lot unsaid and trusting readers to fill in the gaps. Chapter 9. Overusing slang and jargon, keeping it accessible. Overusing slang and jargon can alienate readers. While it can add authenticity, too much can be confusing. Keep it balanced and accessible. Choose slang that fits the character and setting. A teenager might use different slang than a business executive. This can help define characters without overwhelming the reader. Limit the use of jargon. Technical or industry-specific terms can be useful, but too many can be off-putting. Provide context if you need to use them. Use universally understood slang sparingly. Slang can date your writing or make it hard to understand. Aim for timeless language with just a touch of current slang for flavor. In The Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger uses Holden Caulfield's unique slang to define his character. Phrases like phony and crummy give us insight into his worldview without overloading the reader. Consider your audience. Use language they will understand. If you're writing for a general audience, keep it simple. If your audience is more specialized, a bit more jargon might be acceptable. Read widely and pay attention to how different authors use slang and jargon. Notice what works and what doesn't. This can help you strike the right balance in your own writing.